Batman Forever. It sucked then, and it sucks forever. Oh man, ever since I heard those words from AVGN, that has to be one of my all-time favorite AVGN episodes because there are so many times during that episode where I personally know the nerd's pain, right? Like this is something that I've been through a lot over the years. Experiencing this mess for myself, growing up with it and trying to get through it when I was a stupid kid. Before I think I knew what a bad game was, I was trying to get through this game, and I don't even think I've ever seen the movie, like not all the way through, but yeah, I know the game fairly well, the first couple of levels at least. This is Batman Forever on Super Nintendo, a game that is weirdly complex and honestly has a lot of has a lot of things going for it, but it's just so odd some of the decisions they made here, and it's really worth talking about if you grew up experiencing it. And like one of the really notable things that I would really like to point out is that the game does not look bad at all. Far from it, actually. I think the game has a really gorgeous art style. I really love the audio design, the sound effects. Like they're all like really sharp and have like a really get the atmosphere of what they're going for pretty well. It's probably one of the darker games I've played on Super Nintendo from a visual standpoint. Like lots of cool gothic architecture, lots of moody music, some interesting decisions there. But like the game itself is just not all that great. It's confusing and just throws a lot of weird stuff at you like right out of the gate. And like the thing you'll notice immediately when you first boot it up is that it is in fact a clone of Mortal Kombat. Like apparently it's running off the same engine. I don't know if like it was a thing at Midway and a claim to like try and slap the Mortal Kombat engine onto like beat 'em up games, because I know there were a handful of games like this. Like Sub-Zero Mythology is another notable example of them trying to make like an action adventure game out of the Mortal Kombat engine. This plays very similarly. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up with the Mortal Kombat engine. You turn automatically to face your enemies, and you have like high and low punches and kicks. Like you uppercut the same way, but you're moving around as in a beat 'em up. And you also have like a grappling hook, which if you've seen the nerd video, you're aware of like how that thing works. You press the select button to shoot the thing out, but if you're not in the right, if you don't press the up button in the exact correct way, in a very specific way, it's not going to go like straight up. You're just going to swing across a gap, and that's useful in certain situations. But in this first room, like you have to figure out, if you're going to proceed, you have to figure out the specific button combination to go straight up, and it is hard to do, right? Like I remember playing this as a kid. Like I remember doing it the first couple of times by accident, and just kind of having to like figure it out. And it was like it's one of those things that define the entire experience, I think, because it's needlessly complex. Because I think the R button doesn't do anything. And now I say I think because one of the weird things about this game is that you have items, but the game itself doesn't tell you how to use the items. So like one of the things I thought when I was recording footage for this is that I thought the R button might actually have a function of using those items, but I wasn't able to figure it out. I might have to like look it up. I was thinking I might do like a follow-up video where I showcase the lower levels, the later levels, which you can reach via cheat code. Getting past level 2 through standard gameplay is very difficult. I'm playing on easy. I specifically was trying to get as far as I can, and like every time I've ever played this in my life, I typically only get to about halfway through the bank level 2, right? Like you get 5 lives, no continues, like fighting these enemies that are honestly kind of rough. Like they're not super difficult or anything, but they wear on you like as you go through levels. If you were allowed to start from like level 2 with full lives, yeah, you could probably get through it. But the way the game is structured, like I imagine it's very difficult to get through the entire thing with with only these 5 lives. And I'm not sure exactly how you would do it. There are secrets and hidden areas. I believe there are like additional lives, but like I never remember where they are. I never like seek them out or anything. Like my instinct is to just go through the entire thing and try to get through it. Try and get through this mess. Oh, this is another shit shocker. This is another thing that like pissed me off. Like you have to drop through the floor here, but there's no indication of that. Like you've seen holes in the ground before. To go down the holes, you like hold R and then press down again in a very specific pattern. But like here, it's like, how would you ever figure out that was what you were supposed to do? There's no indication that you can drop through the floor there. It's ridiculous. This is supposed to be Arkham Asylum, by the way, and it somehow looks more intimidating than the one on the PS3. Like I said, the game does have really good visual design. Like you end up really feeling like taken in by the backgrounds. Like they're all unique, they're all distinct. There isn't a lot of like repeating assets, at least from what I've seen. And like the later levels do look different than the first two, right? Like I put in the cheat code to like to see level 3, and it's like a circus. It's completely different. And there's a bomb you have to defuse or something. I have no idea. Like I've never been able to beat it, but again, it's different than the first two stages, right? The second level is a bank with its own unique visual style. I'm sure like the later levels also are wildly different. Not that you'll ever reach them. It's just and again, like the game, when you get down to it, is just going around beating people up, and the combat isn't bad. It's snappy. I don't think it's as bad as people say Mortal Kombat Mythologies is. I've never played Mortal Kombat Mythologies, but like people will tell you that like to turn around in that game you have to press the B button or something. Like and there's like awkward platforming. Like the main problem with the general gameplay of this game is that like the combat itself is basic and repetitive, but like getting around, like some of the weird mechanics just like go completely over your head. Like again, there's the grappling hook, there's the drop down thing, there's a glide that you have to get like that you have to use to get to certain places and later in the game. Like there's just like so many convoluted aspects to this that just kind of ruin the entire experience. And the game feels pretty ambitious. It feels like they had like a pretty sizable budget. Again, it looks great, looks and sounds great, but yeah, it's just not very much fun to play. Like I'm inclined to say that like probably the NES game is better. Batman Returns from Konami is better. Like, oh yes, and this is a two-player game. I'm not sure if like that's well known or not, but this game does have a two-player feature, and that's probably the way you would want to play this game. And like I think I did. It's been years since I played this with anyone, but from what I remember, you can actually get quite a bit farther if you have someone with you willing to play this complete disaster with you. Okay, so these are the weapons that I can't figure out how to use. Like it looks like there's a bunch of variety here, but like I have no idea how they work or how they function. Like I tried changing them here to see if I could like mess around with button combinations and just kind of turn them on and use them by accident. I've been playing this game for years and I've never done that. I have no idea at all how you're supposed to use the weapons in this game. After playing it for honestly probably over almost 20 years, and like it's bizarre. It's bizarre that they tried to do this. like I said, like it's overly ambitious. Like they threw all this shit into the game with no real thought of how it would go together. Oh yeah, the loading screens. Yeah, apparently the game. I don't know what the loading screens are about. I mean, when I first played this, I was so young, I didn't really think there was anything weird about a loading screen in a game like this. But yeah, the nerd pointed it out that like how unusual that is for a Super Nintendo era game, with just like the small file size that like the game needs to load. I don't know if it's like unusually big for a Super Nintendo game, but it does look like there's a lot going on visually. Like, look at these multi-layered backgrounds. Like I said, this level really showcases, I think, the game's graphical graphical capabilities. Yeah, I have no idea what the prize is. I don't think I've ever saved all 4 of these douchebags. It might be, like, just beating the level, which, again, I'm not sure I've ever done. Like, I've seen level 3, but, like, I don't know if I've ever done it legitimately. Like, I think every time I've gone there, it's always due to, using a cheat code. Yeah, so each of the enemies have completely different names. So and they get kind of ridiculous at certain points. You get like Buzzsaw and like Anglophile and stuff like that. Like real scum you're going up against here. And like the sprites are all like pretty distinct and like I noticed while when I played level 3 that like each level seems to have completely different enemy types with their own moves and their own abilities that just kind of that that will keep you surprised that are in. Again, like I said, it seems to be ambitious. This game doesn't seem half-assed at all. Quite the opposite. A big reason why it's so disappointing. It's so it's it's so. I'm never happy to see a game like this that clearly has a lot of effort and money put into it, just like come out like not all that great. And there are a lot of examples like this, like even back then, even today. But like I think this might be one of the more notable examples of that on the Super Nintendo because it's a licensed game. It's a property that Batman is a property that traditionally has had some pretty good video game adaptations, and this is just probably the most underwhelming one I'm aware of. Like again, like I have like nasty things to say about the Arkham games, and I don't think I'm like all that fond of Batman Returns or like the NES game, but like they're clearly better than this, right? Like they have better level design and mechanics, and just like are all around like more accessible, like regardless of their personal failings or whatever. There's just there's so much you can do with the license, and like this just does not hit the mark at all. Yeah, here's the glide that I mentioned. Like, yeah, to do the glide, you have to do this weird thing where you press up and like the direction you're going in like twice. It's really awkward. And like if you're gonna fly over that gap, you're gonna have to have this mastered, and it takes a lot of work. I when I was seriously trying to finish this game, like when I was a kid, I couldn't figure it out. I don't even know why they have this section in. Like Batman takes the elevator. For some reason, you can like climb on top of it. Like I said, like gorgeous backgrounds. Look at those statues. Like they don't need to be in the game, but like they really put a lot of effort into the visual style. Dog, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah, the Riddler like has these vague hints like about how the game works, like layered around the game world, and none of them ever make any sense. I don't know if you've been like reading them, but basically they're tutorials in the guise of a riddle, but they're so like vague, like it's usually pretty difficult to like figure out what he's talking about. Like he'll tell you to use a grappling hook, but like he'll say it in a way where like you couldn't possibly figure it out unless like you know you have a grappling hook, you know. And if you have if you know you have the grappling hook, you're gonna know how to you're gonna figure out how to use it like eventually. Like he doesn't help you figure out how like the intricacies of how it works at all. He basically just says to use it, which is probably not the way he should have done that. Titan, wait a minute, it's not a. All right, whatever. Yeah, there's really not all that much to say about it. You know, like if this wasn't a game that like I grew up with, it would be just like another mediocre game on the Super Nintendo library. But it does suck that this game does have like strong aspects to it, but they're overshadowed by the fact the game is not fun. And honestly, that's probably the way that it should be, honestly. Because I think these days a lot of people will look at like big production values and like use that to justify like a game not being fun. I think The Last of Us Part 2 is probably always going to be the defining example of that. I'll never forget when Angry Joe like just starts rambling about how like yeah the game like shits all over the established lore of the first game. It's not all that fun to play. It does all this stuff, but oh man, at least like the visuals look nice. At least the team is the best at what they do, which isn't true. And it is not. It never has been true. Back then, like games like this would come out, initially impress people due to their graphics and like the license, and just kind of be forgotten. And honestly, that's probably the way it should be.